The Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers take commanding 3-1 leads with their wins last night. 2 good games. But we're going to dive into all of that, all of the remaining series, the Nikola Jokic situation, and Andrew Luck finally coming out of retirement. Not to mention, we're going to give our power rankings of the remaining NBA teams as all 8 playoff teams still remain. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Bakari Steve. How you doing on this Tuesday morning?
I am great after waking up to a LeBron Walker, the 4th win. Great job, Lakers. Let's close out the series in the Bay.
As if LeBron didn't have enough help. But this is your early reminder to support us. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, share the podcast with a friend, as if you enjoy it, I'm sure they will as well. But without further ado, we have some quick news to cover first. We're going to get into these power rankings eventually, but let's get into this news first, as this is the Anomaly Podcast. And we're going to start here with Coach Bud. Coach Bud of the Milwaukee Bucks formerly, he was dismissed after their first-round exit against the Miami Heat. Out of his 5 seasons as their coach, he won. First off, he brought Milwaukee their first championship in half a century in the 2021 season. But in his other 4 years as their head coach, he was an overall 4-4 in a playoff series. The Bucks GM, he had this to say. He said, "From a regular season perspective, we've done some incredible things, and that matters. You care about the regular season. It is really hard to win an 82-game regular season. It takes a lot to do that, but the playoffs matter an awful lot too." The Bucks are hoping that with a head coaching change, they can unlock some potential with this Bucks team. They are an older team, I will say that, but still they're hoping a head coaching change can make a big difference. How soon, who do you think a head coaching difference can make that big of a difference? 1, here for the Milwaukee Bucks, and 2, how soon do you see Coach Bud getting another job?
I think another coach could come in and do a better job than Bud. We've seen it from the teams he's coached, and I think the previous team he coached, which was the Atlanta Hawks. That team went 60-22, and got bounced second round in 6 games, I believe, 6 or 5 games.
Yeah,
and they didn't even look like much of a competition. And I think everybody knew from that standpoint, Mike Budenholzer was a good regular season coach, but he's not a good playoff coach. The year they won the championship, the year the Bucks won the championship, I think everybody knows by now, Mike Budenholzer was supposed to be fired right after the Nets series that they were going to lose, and he ends up keeping his job because Kyrie rolls his ankle and Kevin Durant wears a size 25. But I think another team will be able to kind of unlock more of a potential in maybe the offense, and maybe have some different actions. And maybe you could get Chris Middleton back on track if you don't lose him. Maybe you can get Giannis to some different actions, maybe kind of improve his range, as crazy as it sounds, and do some other actions with some other players. But, I don't know who's going to pick up Bud next. I don't know how soon. Maybe, I'd say probably give it like 3 years. Maybe he decides, I think, he lost his brother during that playoff series, so maybe he decides to take some time off from coaching in the first place. And he decides not to coach this upcoming season. Probably wait another season. And I could see maybe within 3 years, he gets another job coaching, maybe like the Rockets. They get it somebody, or maybe not the Rockets, maybe like the Pistons get somebody now, help during the rebuild as soon as they feel like they're
championship ready.
Yeah, championship or playoff ready. They go and get Mike Budenholzer. So that'll probably be the next situation he walks into.
Yeah, it seemed like that year that they won the championship, it looked like they were looking for a reason to fire him. And since he won the championship, they extended his contract, and they're like, hey, you won a championship, you can stay for a couple more years. Maybe you can show us or improve on your flaws, right, as a coach, as he's not a situational coach. He's not an X and O's coach. He's very, this is the game plan, we're sticking to it. I'm not going to make adjustments, right? At least that's what he's shown us with his time with Atlanta and Milwaukee. As you mentioned with his brother, I do see him taking maybe a year off from the NBA. But to me, what makes the most sense is, he's not really a developmental coach either, but no. I could see him replacing Greg Popovich. He comes from that tree. He comes from under Greg Popovich, and Popovich only has a couple years left. So if they decide to go in a different direction, or if Pop decides to finally hang it up eventually after next year, Budenholzer can finally step in and maybe replace his mentor, right, at one point. But yeah, Budenholzer, they underperformed. Makes a lot of sense why the Bucks moved on. Sucks to be Ime Udoka, right, in this situation, as you accepted the Rockets job. and then a week later, you could have had the Milwaukee Bucks job.
Yeah.
But that leads me to our next point. 3 of the last 4 NBA champions, that is the Raptors in 2019, Lakers in 2020, Bucks in 2021, and of course the Warriors of last season. 3 of the last 4 teams have fired their head coach. My question to you is the NBA are the NBA franchises too harsh on the NBA coaches? Should these championship coaches have a larger leash as they get fired seemingly a year or 2 after winning a championship?
No, I don't think so, because I think a lot of times with the front office, especially with GMs, if you're constantly evaluating, you know your coach's flaws and strengths. Nick Nurse, I think he actually overstayed his time in Toronto a little bit longer than expected. Even last year, it was kind of evident they got off to a bad start. It was kind of evident that his style of coaching or the play style that they play in Toronto just isn't enough to win. And then next thing you know, because teams got hurt late down the stretch last year, the Raptors were able to sneak up the standings and make the playoffs, losing 5 to Philadelphia, 5 or 6 to Philadelphia. Either way, they were down 3-0 at one point. And this year, they go in with the same style this year, and they don't even make the playoffs. They don't even look like a competent team sometimes. They just don't look like they have what it takes to get it done. So it's probably going to take a full roster revamp too. Maybe trade away some of those wings and size for them and get some positional players. And as I think everybody knew with the Lakers, Frank Vogel is a decent coach, but he's not he's more of a defensive coach. I think everybody knew LeBron. LeBron always gets credits when he wins the championship, but I think everybody knows with that type of roster, you have a motivated LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Not a lot of people are going to be able to stand in your way. And Mike Budenholzer, as we stated, I mean, he was supposed to be fired,
the year they won the championship.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and I like Steve Kerr. I think he just walked into the best situation of all time as far as coaching goes. You get to coach 2 of the top 3 players of all time, and then 2 years later, you get a top 3 player in the world to join your team. So
shooters. I want to clarify because
I'm sorry. Shooters.
Klay Thompson's not a top 2 player of all time. He knows that. But anyway, I do believe. I personally believe that they should have a bit of a larger leash. Now, Nick Nurse and Frank Vogel, they had terrible situations after the championship. But at least Nick Nurse was stagnant. I mean, he had pretty much the same crew. Kawhi Leonard went on a magical run and made Nick Nurse. A lot of people thought he was a genius, right, with his box and 1 schemes. But I think Steve Kerr's here to stay, and I think out of the teams remaining, unless the Knicks make a magical run and win the championship, I think most of the coaches that are currently left in the playoffs are good to stay for at least a couple years if they do win the championship this year. But moving over, Nikola Jokic in Game 4 of the Nuggets and Sun series, it seemed like a must-win for the Nuggets in a way. But in that third quarter, I believe, there was a loose ball went out of bounds. Nikola Jokic of the Nuggets went to go grab the ball. Matt Ishbia, the new owner of the Suns, had it and wouldn't give the ball back to Jokic. So Jokic grabbed it, he pushed him, and basically after all of that, Jokic was fined $25,000. He will not face suspension. I think a large part of that is because Matt Ishbia said that I don't want him to be suspended. Do you think that's a fair punishment? Do you think that Matt Ishbia's in the wrong? Do you think Jokic is in the wrong? Just overall thoughts on that situation.
I think they both knew that they were in some sort of wrong. I think that's why Matt Ishbia, after the accident happened and was talking to the media, said that nothing should happen to Jokic. I think he knew his emotions of being a fan overcame everything as well. I think if this was a regular season game, Jokic is probably suspended maybe 1 game or whatever. But the fact that this is the playoffs and, everybody knows emotions run high in the playoffs, I think Jokic not being suspended in a critical Game 6, it was the right move.
Yeah, Game 5 is a big one that's coming up.
Or Game 5,
and that's going back to Mile High.
Nuggets in 6 is what I'm trying to say.
Nuggets are obviously the best home team left in the playoffs. They're going back to Mile High. They were 2-0 there. Can they, bounce back? We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But moving over to the NFL quickly, Andrew Luck, reports came out yesterday that the Washington Commanders have been reaching out to Andrew Luck and have asked if he wants to come out of retirement. The NFL found out about this. Jim Irsay, not owner of the Indianapolis Colts, but the GM, he's warned teams that he will get them fined for tampering, and the NFL is now looking into it. The Commanders could be fined for tampering. Maybe they get a pick or 2 taken away. But Andrew Luck, I mean, he's 33. He hasn't played since 2018, which is about 5 or 6 years ago at this point, NFL seasons-wise. And I guess the only reason I brought this to the show was, one, what are the Commanders doing? If you wanted a quarterback, just draft one. And it just shows how great of a player Andrew Luck was in his time here in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was, I mean, the fact that, 5 years after the fact, you're like, hey, can you come play with us? Is something crazy. And I agree with you again. The Commanders, I mean, it's their fault that they haven't drafted a QB in these last few years. You spend picks on all these defensive guys, and you have a really good defense, but you have an offense that can't score if their lives depended on it. Obviously, I don't know if you've seen any pictures of Andrew Luck in like the past year or so, but he looks far from in playing shape. It looks like when he walked away from the game, he walked away with every intention to not come back.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight.
Exactly, and I don't think even if he said he wanted to come back, he wouldn't be anywhere near where he was. Obviously, especially at 33, he's not getting any younger. Commanders, the fact that they're willing to lose maybe a pick or two for just getting a chance to talk to Andrew Luck is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, it shows that he was a Hall of Fame talent. If he stayed in the league long enough, he would have been a Hall of Fame player to me. No doubt in my mind. The craziest thing to me here is Sam Howell. As they verbally committed to him this offseason, they said, we're not going to draft a quarterback. We're not going to sign a quarterback. We want the rookie that we drafted last season to at least get a shot at being that guy here for Washington. And then they go out and they talk to a guy that's been retired for 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm Sam Howell, I feel disrespected, and I hope it's just a rumor. But obviously the NFL is doing their due diligence. They're getting into the situation, doing their research. And, if this comes to fruition and Washington is fined for tampering, you got to feel disrespected if you're Sam Howell. But, hey, if they really don't believe in Sam Howell, they're going to tank, and they're probably going to end up with Caleb Williams here next season. But around the playoffs, we're just going to quickly go through all the series as we'll start here in Denver. We'll start here in Denver as we kind of touched on it already. But Denver at home in Mile High, they started 2-0 in the series in favor. It looked like Denver was running away with the series. It looked like nobody could touch this Denver team. And to me, they started to look like the title favorite, right? But then they went back to Phoenix, and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had something to say. My question to you is, are the Suns better without Chris Paul, as they've won the last 2 games without him?
I don't know if it's just the lack of Chris Paul. It could be because they play a little bit faster now that they don't have an old washed up 37, 38-year-old
right.
Point guard in there slowing the pace every time he gets to conserve his energy. But I think that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, or Devin Booker exclusively, he's playing at a level that we probably haven't seen shot making like. He always compared to Kobe, and it feels like that he's doing that this series or the entire playoffs so far.
Yes.
I think he's averaging the most points since Michael Jordan. He's had the most points in that amount of in a certain amount of playoff games since Michael Jordan, like way back in the 80s or something crazy at like 219. I don't know. I think it's more so that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have extended their playing level, knowing that they're empty-handed. Knowing that DeAndre Ayton isn't going to give them anything on offense or defense. In those games, too, the Nuggets also shot themselves out. It could easily be 4-0. There were some close games. We'll see.
Yeah, Chris Paul, I think it'd be crazy to say that they're not better with Chris Paul, especially with the depth on this Phoenix Suns team. But Chris Paul, it's just unfortunate. He's been unfortunate his whole career, and right now it looks like this Suns team that could be a title favorite is better without him. I think that's kind of crazy. Chris Paul does, he takes pressure off of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and even at 39, he can still have those performances, those 20-point, 8 to 10 assist games where he's giving KD and Devin Booker a rest, as if they need one, as the ISO scores that they are. But Chris Paul, I think they're better with him, no question there to me. And it's just unfortunate that they seem to win without him.
Yeah.
But Denver. Denver started off the series strong, like we mentioned. I have some questions now with this team, especially their fourth quarter offense, and it's terrible in my eyes. And that's really, I think, in these 2 games in Phoenix, that's where Devin Booker and Kevin Durant have pulled away.
Yeah.
I think my only question to you is, if these first 3 quarters stay close, the next 3 games, is there any chance Denver can finally put it together and win 2 of these last 3 games? I guess my question is just, on a 0 to 100%, what do you give Denver to win this series?
I think it all comes down to this home game that they're about to play. If they're able to win this, and I know it's easy to say, if they're able to win this, they can win it in 7. But I think if they're able to win this, they can get one of the two. They have home court advantage. I think they can get 2 out of 3. And you figure maybe you just get lucky and Kevin Durant or Devin Booker just has a bad game. But we've seen Kevin Durant have a bad game and turn it up in the fourth quarter, and it's like he still finishes with 37. So I don't, that fourth quarter offense that the Nuggets have, it is something to talk about. It is the reason why they lost those last 2 games. You spoil Jokic's 50 historic performance. I think for the Nuggets, it's really hurting them that they don't have somebody on the wing that can go get it. Michael Porter Jr., we know he can go get some points, but he can't really create, as far as creating his own shot like a Kevin Durant. He's more of a catch and shoot, more of a shoot it when he touches it type of player. Jamal Murray, he can be a little bit inconsistent at the guard. So, I think it just hurts the Nuggets. They don't have somebody on the wing next to Jokic to say, I'm going to go get these buckets in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there needs to be someone to relieve the pressure for Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray, I think, has done that for the majority of these playoffs. But
in the games that he doesn't.
Right, in the games that he doesn't, it's all on Jokic's shoulders, and we know Jokic isn't the most offensively dominant player as far as getting a bucket, right? But again, he just showed us he can go out there and get us 53 points on crazy efficiency. I think I agree with you. I think that I still have Denver winning this series. I think they only have to win their home games, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to win in Phoenix. If they can win their next 2 home games, they're going to be going into the Western Conference Finals, and I think they can do that at the bare minimum. But I'll give you the choice. We have the 1 in the Western Conference and 2 in the East. What series do you want to talk about next?
Let's talk about that Boston and Philly, Matt.
Okay, we'll start with Boston and Philly, as basically the series winds down to how good is James Harden? What version of James Harden are we going to get? At least to me, because in the 2 games that James Harden has put up 40-plus points, this Philly team has won. And, it seems like Joel Embiid hasn't had that super, super dominant performance yet, and it's still a tied series going back to Boston. Best 2 out of 3, again. But, for me, it's frustrating watching Boston, as me and you both know. I mean, they were in the finals last year. It seems like they're the most complete team in basketball. As at some nights, it seems like they have 7 to 8 legitimate starters that they could play in any lineup combination. And it just seems like something is missing with this Boston team. And I don't know if that's what we talked about last week with Jason Tatum. But I don't know if it's that, because he just had a great game. It just seems like something is missing. Maybe it's the point guard play. But again, you have a defensive player of the year. How much more can you ask out of your point guard? It just seems like there's something missing here with Boston. I think that's the reason why Philly has a chance now in the series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is point guard play, though. I think it was this last year as well in the finals. Yeah, Jason Tatum was struggling, and Jaylen Brown is the best player. But it didn't help when your point guard and Marcus Smart would get the ball out of the inbounds, not out of the fast break, out of the inbound, come down with 20 seconds left on the shot clock, shoot a transition 3, miss it, and then Steph Curry comes down on the other end and makes his. Marcus Smart, he isn't a pass-first point guard. He should be more of a pass-first point guard. He isn't that. He tries to force his own shot too many times, and he does it at the worst times. That's why you go get Malcolm Brogdon. But he doesn't have the defensive. He's a good defender, but he doesn't have the defensive prowess that Marcus Smart has. And it doesn't help that it feels like, especially based off of comments, pretty much through the whole second half of the season, through the playoffs, it feels like Jaylen Brown may not be there. It feels like he's kind of there. He puts up points, he puts up stats, but it feels like he's already checked on to his next team. He said it after the last game. They were like, what does he have to do in the fourth quarter to be more aggressive? And he was like, well, maybe I just got to demand the ball more. He feels like that he's not getting the opportunity that he's had or that he wants to showcase what he can do. And you got to feel for him. I mean, it goes Jason Tatum, and then sometimes it feels like Marcus Smart is getting those looks that Jaylen Brown should be getting. He's taking those shots that Jaylen Brown should be getting. And that's not what you want to do to your secondary star, because if Jaylen Brown leaves, the Celtics team is set. I think they're set back all the way to a play-in team, as crazy as it sounds. I think Jason Tatum is too inconsistent to will this team to a top seed again, consistently at least. So I think the Celtics team, like you said, it has a lot of questions. When they play good, they're really good. When they play bad, they're really bad. And I think Philly is just good enough to hang in there and sneak away with 2 wins, and next thing you know, they're in the conference finals.
Right, and you know, as crazy as it sounds, as crazy as we have all these questions about Boston, or Boston, not Boston, but Boston, I still feel like they can win this series. I
Yeah.
think out of the next 2 to 3 games, they're going to win the series and move on. But there's that window. Boston's always going to leave that window for whatever team they play, whether if it's the Spurs or the Warriors. They're going to leave a window there for any team to come back and beat them in that second half. And it's something's missing with this team. We talk, there's a lot of questions. But I think they will get out of this series.
Yeah, I mean, they can mess around and make the finals or even win the finals with always being that question there. So
Right, we're going to move over to the Western Conference, a game that took place last night, a game that they're comparing Kevin Love's historic defensive stop to Anthony Davis's, but the Lakers and the Warriors. Now, the Lakers have officially big brothered the Warriors, in my opinion. They are now up 3-1, and it seems like they can do whatever they want against this Warriors team, who, I'll be the first to say it, I had this Warriors team winning in 5. This series has played out nothing like I expected it to. And the Warriors are getting no production, aside from Steph Curry, who put up a 30-point triple-double last night, and they didn't get the win. But the Warriors, this Lakers team, to me, the biggest thing here is someone's always showing up for the Lakers. Whether if it's Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, or Lonnie Walker, as you mentioned last night.
Walker.
He put up 15 points in the fourth quarter. That's the only points he had in the entire game. There's always somebody that steps up for this Lakers team, and I guess my question to you is, from 1 to 15, is this the most help LeBron has ever had? Do you think this is the best roster LeBron's ever been a part of?
It's hard to say best roster. I think LeBron...
It is hard because you could think of the big threes.
Exactly.
But
right.
then you have a complete roster like this.
Yeah, and that's where it's hard. But I also think LeBron's mindset is a little bit different. Back then, when he's in his prime, late 20s, early 30s, he can do everything. He doesn't need to sit back and let others get involved. He doesn't need the bench help that he has now. He doesn't need the people.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't need that depth. He could. We were.
LeBron is depth.
Yeah, exactly. We're Cavs fans. We remember when we were run out with 7-man rotations during the finals, and we were in competitive games. So I think. LeBron has realized that he's older now, so what he has to do is he has to pick and choose when he wants to insert himself. What was it? Game 3, I believe. Game 3, first game in LA. LeBron didn't score the first quarter. And then it was the Warriors were up. Next thing you know, he takes over basically the second and the third quarter. And there's a stretch in the third quarter where he did everything. He was playing defense. He was coming down on offense, knocking down shots, finding AD, finding D'Lo. And he was doing everything. And after that little stretch of maybe 3 or so minutes, he was gassed. And gassed to the point where they took him out for the rest of the quarter.
Right.
It's kind of fun to watch LeBron kind of play like this now because it's more so like he's like, all right, everybody,
reserved,
go get yours, go get your 80, go get your points, go get your 19 in the first half. D'Lo, go get yours. Schroeder, go get. Dennis Schroeder has been playing great too. Dennis Schroeder, go get yours. And it's kind of fun to watch him play like this because the team does better. The team is more energized now. Now the team wants to play defense. Now the team wants to prove. It's almost like everybody's like, hey, LeBron, we got your back. We're going to go out and show you. Just like Lonnie Walker did in that fourth quarter last night, hit that clutch shot over Steph to kind of ice the game away or at least take a 3-point lead. So it's hard to say best team, but I think this is the first time in LeBron's career that he's told himself, all right, I'm going to sit back and see what my team can do.
Yeah, I think the best constructed roster is, either one of those Cavs teams or one of those Heat teams, probably one of those Heat teams, as it was him, Bosh, Wade, he had Battier, and Mike Miller, and James Jones, and no center to name.
Yeah,
right.
Joel Anthony.
Right.
Put some respect on his name. And Birdman.
Yeah, Birdman, as Mario Chalmers, the Kansas legend. But, the biggest question, the biggest frustrating thing here for me is I'm not rooting for the Warriors. Like I said, I want the Lakers to win. I'm a LeBron fan. I want him to win another finals. But I picked the Warriors because I know that, look, both teams have mismatches, defensive, guys that you could pick on, right? The Warriors have not done that. The Lakers have switched on to Curry. They've been taking advantage of Curry and Dante DiVincenzo. These are the guys who aren't the best defensively, but the Warriors haven't done that, surprisingly. Like, the Warriors can switch on to LeBron, who has his moments defensively, but at 39, I think you can attack a 39-year-old, but you still have Austin Reeves or Dennis Schroeder or D'Lo, who those guys aren't the greatest defenders, and the Warriors just aren't attacking them. And it's mind-boggling to me that a team that has won 4 championships with this same core is not doing that. not doing something that you think that a veteran team would do. And I think the Lakers are just taking advantage of it, and they're up 3-1 because of it.
Well, and I will say, I think they are giving Reeves and Schroeder the respect they deserve, though, because Reeves and Schroeder, like especially like last night in the fourth quarter when Reeves was in the game, he didn't do anything on offense, but he was hedging the screen. He was basically disrupting the off ball plays. He wasn't playing, like, they weren't even getting in the ball. They weren't even putting the ball in whoever he was guarding because he was disrupting the court so much. Same thing with Schroeder. Schroeder was right there with Draymond on that last play. Those guys are good at defense. They play good team defense, and that's, like I was saying, it's more unpredictable when LeBron sits back and lets everybody else get involved, because now it's like, okay, who's going to score? Is it Rui? Is it Lonnie? Is it Austin Reeves? Is it D'Lo?
Right.
So I think that's why they're able to play like this.
Yeah, and like I said, the series is going nothing like I imagined. It now looks like the Lakers are on their way to another ring, as crazy as that sounds. But the final series here is we're going to transition. This works beautifully, but Miami and New York. The Heat, Jimmy Butler came back, and Jimmy Butler alone again in this series is 3-0 against the Knicks. He's 7-1 in this playoffs. Jimmy Butler doesn't lose much, and he didn't lose again. I mean, the Heat team as an 8 seed is up 3-1, and they're on the verge, if I can talk. They're on the verge to become one of the only teams as the number 8 seed to reach the conference finals. Coincidentally, might be the first since the 1999 Knicks. Jimmy Butler's doing it again. He's playing great minutes, and they're also getting great minutes from Kyle Lowry. Last night played a huge game as a Kyle Lowry fan. You can imagine I was going crazy here watching Kyle Lowry play a pivotal part to that win last night. And that might have been Bam's best game of the playoffs here last night, as he really took control. And at some points, it seemed like Bam was unstoppable. As a Cavs fans, we watched our two bigs get decimated by Mitchell Robinson alone, not even Julius Randle. And Bam last night was doing that to those Knicks bigs. And all of that played a part in the Heat getting another win.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are playing like I thought they were playing against the Cavs. I thought Julius Randle would lose energy, which would cause the team to lose energy. I thought our bigs would be able to, kind of say, hey, we're going to box out. We're going to get some boards, because there are 2 7-footers that we have, compared to their 1 or whatever. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So now we have to live with the consequences and watch an 8 seed be up 3-1. On they should have swept this Knicks team already if Jimmy doesn't get hurt. I had the Knicks winning in 6, but that's because the Knicks look like the greatest team I've ever watched play when they were playing the Cavs,
right,
other than that one blowout game. Credit to the Heat, credit to Jimmy. Jimmy has been playing like we had him ranked. He's the number 1 player in this playoffs so far. And that's crazy to say when Devin Booker is on a historic scoring pace. But I just think that the Knicks need to find somebody other than Julius Randle. Julius Randle brings nothing but negative energy to that Knicks team. Somebody can't ask you after the game, what do you have to do better for the rebounds, or what are they doing? And you're going to say, oh, I guess they just want it more. I don't know. That's your star player, supposedly. That's your all-star. Everybody knows that Julius Randle has had one of the worst attitudes in the NBA since he's been in the league. But it's more apparent in this Knicks team. Everybody in New York love their Knicks. They want Julius Randle gone. Jalen Brunson really embodies what it's like to be a Knick. So does Josh Hart, and so does R.J. Barrett, who's been playing a lot better since those first 2 games of the Cavs series. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Julius Randle on the trade market this offseason. I don't know who would really want him like that. But this Knicks team, they still have a lot of figuring out to do. They just got lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and I think Julius Randle might be one of those guys that can be traded this offseason. It's one of those guys you could trade with a first-round pick to a rebuilding team, as I think Julius Randle's good, but he's not good enough to carry a rebuilding team to a contention tier. But I just want to throw the stat out there about Julius Randle. First off, I'm going to say the NBA began in the 1946-1947 season. So 46-47, first year of the NBA. Since then, they've kept track of the worst career field goal percentage out of all players that's ever played in the NBA. Okay, we're even including like Jimmy Fredette in them, right? Julius Randle now has the 4th worst field goal percentage in his playoff career, minimum of 15 games, out of anybody in NBA history. The top 3 is Joe Fulks, Chick Halbert, and Bellis Smalling. Those guys all played in the 50s or beforehand. So in the first 5 years of the NBA, Those guys were there. Now you're adding Julius Randle to that
And the
list.
first guy shot like, what, 26%?
26%, 27%, 32%, and Julius Randle is shooting 32% from the field in his playoff career. It is insanely bad, and we were talking about it before the playoffs. We were hoping the Knicks had Julius Randle, as we thought that we had a better chance with Julius Randle on the court. But the last season here, or I guess the last thing here I want to say about the Knicks is that Jalen Brunson, he's had an amazing season, but his ankle that he injured in Game 1 there, it seems to be more of a problem than we thought originally. And saying all that, he still had 20 points.
Yeah.
But moving over to the power rankings, as we're 30 minutes in, but these power rankings are going to be relatively quick. And we're going to start here with the 8 seed Knicks. We just talked about them. We talked about Julius Randle's struggles, or I guess his improvements. But number 8 for both of us is the New York Knicks. They're 5-4, have the worst offense out of all the teams in the playoffs so far, but they have the number 1 defense. I guess that's something.
Well, they have the number 1 defense because they played a Cavs team who had 79 points in the game, who couldn't throw a ball in the ocean. And you know, it's not like the Heat are overpowering them on offense. It's just more so that these teams are both defensive oriented, and when you only have one player on your team, Jimmy, and you have to guess if Kyle Lowry is going to have give you a good game, Caleb Martin or Bam,
Max Strus, Gabe Vincent.
I guess they've been doing something. So like you said, we just talked about on this Knicks team. They still have a lot to figure out. They still have a lot of offseason pieces that they should look at investing. Swapping star players or secondary star players at this point. I think Jalen Brunson is better than Julius Randle. So, we'll see what happens in the offseason. Tom Thibodeau, too. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me how Tom Thibodeau isn't fired, but then he has, it's like the Knicks get, some type of fluke series or fluke stretch of games or something.
It's like Coach Bud.
Exactly. And it's like, we can't fire him. He did this. He got us to the playoff. He got us to the second round. And it's like, obvious. It's like, Tom Thibodeau is going to give you the number 1 ranked defense, but he's going to give you the worst offense. I think they need somebody to kind of blend those two areas of the ball. And maybe, like you said, for the Bucks, maybe this is somebody who can unlock it, like Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin. You just unlock the whole team because they still have a lot of figuring out to do. Yeah,
moving over to number 7, you have the Phoenix Suns. I have the Miami Heat. It might be questionable. Look, Miami Heat, we just talked about how great they've been. They're 7-2 in the playoffs, and the number 2 offense, number 6 defense out of the teams that are still in the playoff run. But Jimmy Butler, it's really a testament to how great he's been with how poorly this roster had built for the playoffs, right? As Tyler Hero, one of the guys that averaged 20 points per game, he's done. He's done until the finals, I believe, here if the Heat do make it. They're really relying on Gabe Vincent, Bam Adebayo, who's very inconsistent. And that's an understatement. But they're relying on an inconsistent Bam, an inconsistent secondary star. We'll put it that way. They're relying on role players, aside from that, to contribute to a win, as Jimmy Butler can only do so much. But this Heat team has still found a way to put everything together and win. And look, I know that they beat the number 1 seed. They beat my title favorite here in the Milwaukee Bucks. And right now they're going to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals as an 8 seed. But the Miami Heat, I think they've benefited from a great situation here in the second round. And I just, when it comes down to it, if I'm ranking this team is better than this team, I think the teams that are above this Heat team are beating them in a 7-game series.
Yeah, and that's why mine is questionable. I have the Phoenix Suns here. But I have the Phoenix Suns here because imagine if Kevin Durant or Devin Booker had to miss a game. Just not 2, not 1, just 1. It would completely ruin their series in any series they play. This team, they don't have what it takes to really beat anybody if one of those 2 guys is out. It would take maybe like one of those 2021 Kevin Durant 50-point triple-double games or 50-point near triple-double games that he had where he played all 48 minutes and all of overtime and they still lose. It took Landry Shamet having 18 points in Game 3, I believe. Game 3, 18 points. Just for them to squeeze by versus a Nuggets team who was struggling in that fourth quarter offense, like you stated. This Phoenix Suns team. Yes, they have Kevin Durant. Yes, they have Devin Booker. Yes, they have DeAndre Ayton. Yes, they have Chris Paul, who are all good names on paper, but only 2 of those guys are going to make an impact in a series, and that's why I have them at 7 team wise. They are kind of in that same boat as Miami. Miami doesn't have that other star that the Suns have, but even Kevin Durant, he'll shoot 37 shots just to get 37 points. It feels like this series. So I guess just by circumstances, I do have Phoenix here based off of how I think other teams have played so far.
That's the biggest disparity in our list. I think you have them at 7. I have them a bit higher here, but not to mention, they also benefited from playing a starless Los Angeles Clippers team there in the first round. But moving over to number 6, I have the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that's 6-2, has the second to worst offense out of the teams remaining, but they have the number 2 defense. They also have the MVP of the league, who's getting his feet back under him from that injury he suffered in the first round. James Harden, it seems like every third game, he's going to give you 40 here in this playoffs. But James Harden has had 2 40-point games in this second round. If he can even just take that down to 25 a night instead of having those games where he has 8 points, if he can just get 20 to 25 a night, this team could be very dangerous. But I think I trust teams more than the 76ers team, as if James Harden's not giving you that, this team is in trouble, especially with Joel Embiid's health. He's not at 100%. If James Harden's not going to give you 40, I don't know how many games they do win here in this playoffs. So James Harden, in a way, has saved them from being swept. And in all honesty, I just trust the teams ahead of them.
Yeah, and I have the Warriors here at number 6. They have the number 3 ranked offense, number 7 ranked defense out of the teams left.
Only team with a losing record.
Exactly. They're 5-6. Obviously, that happens when you go 7 games the series before and you're down 3-1 now. This team, they don't have really anything going for them outside of Steph. Klay had a good game, too, in a blowout. But, we always know that Klay is good for one good game every 3 weeks. Especially coming back from injury, he's always like, I'm back. He's throwing up them 4s. But in reality, Klay isn't what he was before the injuries. Everybody knew that was going to be the case. But I think it's almost like he's doing it to himself when he tries to, brag about anything that happened during those 4 chips. Only one of them really, I guess 2. But I mean, you had Kevin Durant for 2 of those, and you were kind of able to just take a severe back. He was in his kid seat, in the back seat. So, this Warriors team, they don't have anything going. Jordan Poole had a good game 1, then ruined it by throwing up that shot. And it feels like ever since that shot, he hasn't really gotten a chance to kind of do anything else. He's only, he just played like 13 minutes last game. He wasn't doing good before that game 1. He was doing terrible in that Sacramento series. He was unplayable. I know the Warriors are regretting signing him to that max extension now. Draymond literally threw the game away yesterday. Steph literally threw the game away yesterday, even though he had a 30-point triple-double. But we all know, at least I hope we know, that Steph gets a lot of love. For he's not always there when you need him. He's not always the person to count on in the toughest situations. So unfortunately, this Warriors team is number 6, even though they are the defending champs. It just seems like their perfect storm is over.
Yeah, they're at my number 5. They're right there with you. To me, they're having a lot of uncharacteristic moments here in this playoffs. A team that we've known that has almost played perfect throughout this dynasty of a run that the Warriors have had. This year, it seems like they're making a lot of mistakes. And if it wasn't for Steph Curry having the most points in Game 7 NBA history, this team doesn't make it out the first round. So, this Warriors team, they're getting exposed here in the second round. And again, I've said it twice already, this second round series is not going the way I imagined. I had this Warriors team probably coming out of the West, to be quite honest with you, before this series. And they've looked like anything but that. They're making a lot of mistakes. And like you said, that shot really killed the team morale. And for that reason, they're number 5. And it sounds crazy, as a week ago, I said that they still had a chance to come out the first round. Now I think it's close to no. No chance. I guess I forgot to mention this earlier. This Warriors team, coincidentally, lost that infamous 3-1 lead against the Cavs in the finals. So now there's that picture. No LeBron team has ever blown a 3-1 lead. Any chance the Warriors can do that?
No, the Lakers have the best player in the series, and Anthony Davis. No, I'm playing. But
the best player in the series, LeBron James.
They have Anthony Davis, who has been playing really good. Other than that game 2, that the Lakers had an anomaly of a game where they gave up like 130 points and I don't even know if they scored 100. But I don't believe I think that the Warriors might take this next game at home just because they're in front of that Bay Area crowd. But I think the Lakers, there's no way they come back to LA and lose. With a motivated King James, Anthony Davis, and company.
Almighty. Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is the Miami Heat. A little bit of a surprise. I actually moved them up this morning. That's why the teams like the Warriors and Suns got bumped down. but for good reason. I don't feel, the Suns are iffy, but I feel good about this Heat team being at number 5, like you said, number 2 ranked offense, number 6 ranked defense. I mean, you got to give a team credit when they beat a team who had all the title hopes coming out of the first round. Giannis didn't play for game or 2 games pretty much, and this is a Bucks team that without Giannis all year long, they still looked really good. They looked like they were the team to beat. Obviously Jimmy Butler ruined that. He was able to will this team past them, and now he's reaping the benefits now. Whether they deserve to make it out of the second round if they play any other team, it doesn't matter. They're playing the Knicks. They're up 3-1. They're about to close off the series. They're going to have a lot of rest in between, this Philly and Boston series that could potentially go 7 games. So, the Heat are number 5 for me.
Best record in the playoffs.
Exactly. I mean, we all know how those Pat Riley teams do. They're going to give us competitive Eastern Conference Finals. And, who knows? Maybe we get a LA versus Miami rematch.
Yeah, I mean, if Jimmy Butler doesn't miss a game, this team might be 8-1 here in the playoffs. As crazy as that sounds, and with Jimmy missing a game, and despite having no Tyler Hero, they still have the best record here in the playoffs. But moving over to number 4, I have the Phoenix Suns, a team that has stormed back from an 0-2 hole where it seemed like they had no chance at all. They're now back. 2-2. Chris Paul should be coming back here maybe in game 6 or 7, maybe when they return home. But they're going back to Mile High, and I think as long as you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on your team, you have a chance against anybody in the world. It seems like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant have really taken that step up in the absence of Chris Paul, and in a way, we had the conversation earlier, they kind of look better, at least a little bit, right? The argument is there. But to me, this Suns team has looked...
benching DeAndre Ayton has worked, too.
Yes. They really... DeAndre Ayton, that's the only downfall here. The negative for me for the Suns is DeAndre Ayton, he's moping around, especially when Jake Landale was getting some significant PT there in that game 3 and 4. DeAndre Ayton's just on the bench. He's not interested in the game. He's not interested in the team huddles. But regardless of all of that, we know he's a crybaby. Doesn't matter. You still have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. They're here to play.
Yeah, my number 4 is Philadelphia. Philadelphia, they've been a little inconsistent, especially James Harden. But anytime you're able to go up 2-0 or you tie the series up between, probably who a lot of people think are the eventual champions in the Boston Celtics, regardless of their problems, you're doing something right. Phillies, they still have a dangerous team. They still have Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. Joel Embiid is back. James Harden, he looks like he's returning to form. Then he'll have a bad game, but I think this James Harden is here to stay at least for the rest of the playoffs. Hopefully, if he's here to stay, like you mentioned before, this is a dangerous Philadelphia team. I think Doc Rivers is really motivated this year to let his team know we can get it done this year. If there is never a chance for us to get anything done, it's this year. And I think that everybody in that Philadelphia locker room is feeling that. PJ Tucker, we all saw the video, storms over to Joel Embiid and tells him there's nobody on the planet Earth who can guard you one-on-one. And it seemed to work. Got Joel Embiid fired up. It drove them to a win. And I think when you have leadership like that, anything is possible.
They haven't had that.
Exactly.
With Joel Embiid.
Right. They haven't had that with Joel Embiid. Obviously they didn't have it with Ben Simmons. So I think this is a perfect storm. This is the perfect storm for Philadelphia this year. To if something's going to happen, it's going to be this year.
Absolutely. Moving over to number 3, this is where things are very controversial. We have the same top 3 teams, but just in different order. As my number 3 is going to be the Denver Nuggets, a team that, like I mentioned, they look like my title favorite, a team that was that 1-5 and got a game gentleman sweep in the first round. They're up 2-0 against a team that has Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. It looked like they were on top of the world. Nobody can stop them. But then they dropped 2 straight. 2 close games, I might add. But they dropped 2 straight because their fourth quarter offense is horrendous. But they still have Nikola Jokic. They still have an offense that it seems to work. And if they could just knock down a couple more threes, we're talking about this Nuggets team sweeping the Phoenix Suns team, and they're already in the Western Conference Finals. But they have the number 5 ranked offense, number 3 defense with Jokic, and this team is complete from top down. I think they just need to get past this Phoenix Suns team.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'll save that for later. My number 3 team is the Los Angeles Lakers. I had the Los Angeles Lakers at 3 before the game yesterday, and I was prepared to move them down because I knew that they were going to disappoint me. But Lonnie Walker showed up, LeBron showed up, Anthony Davis showed up in the first half, and on defense on Steph. I this Lakers team, they've surprised me all year long. I wasn't the biggest fan of them even after the moves. I mean, they still have guys like Mo Bamba that they're telling not to even dress up. They're putting him in street clothes.
Right, and Mo Bamba's very serviceable.
Exactly. Mo Bamba, any other team in the playoffs, he's getting PT, which is crazy. But they're telling him to put on those street clothes. You're not getting in the game, and he's ready to ride this wave to the ring. The Lake Show has been very good. This playoffs, stats. They're number 6 ranked offense, number 4 ranked defense. But the way that they're doing it is very impressive. They do it when they need to. They play defense great when they need to. They know how to shut down the opposition, and they go on timely offensive runs when they need to. And whenever you have the King James on your team. Anything is possible. He has the IQ for everybody on the court. And Anthony Davis has been playing motivated this playoffs. So, I have the Lakers number 3.
Moving over to number 2, we're talking about the Jays, a team that we've criticized a lot here recently, but we just see the potential, and it's not always being displayed here on national television. But the Boston Celtics, the Jays, a team that I've said has 7 to 8 starters on their team. So they're 6-4, number 1 offense, number 5 defense. They've dropped 2 straight, or not 2 straight, but they've dropped 2 to this Philadelphia team that in one game didn't have the MVP of the league on their team, and they're just letting James Harden unlock his prime that we haven't seen in a couple years. But this Boston Celtics team, they have all the potential in the world to be the best team in the league, and by far, they're just not untapping that. They're making so many mental mistakes. They're letting teams come back constantly in the third and fourth quarters. And right now, they're in a position where they're 2-2, best of 3 against a team that has the MVP.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think this is also what happens when you have a rookie head coach in Joe Mazzulla, a young coach in Joe Mazzulla. We've seen these struggles all year long for the Celtics. They've been up 20-plus points before and lost. I think they had the most blown 20-point leads this season. Am I right? I could be wrong.
They do.
But you can't blame all of that on the coach. It's on the players too. This Boston team, I think they know that they're good, and sometimes they just feel so good that they lose concentration. Next thing you know, they look up. It's a tight game. Now they have to go win it, and they've already made too many bad plays to go win the game. And it's unfortunate because if Jaylen Brown leaves this summer, we may never see the ceiling of this Celtics team. But like you said, this team, when they play good, when they unlock everything, they are by far the number 1 team left in the playoffs. But because they haven't been able to do that consistently, they're number 2 for both of us.
Moving over to our number 1 teams, I'll start here with the Lakers. You touched on a lot of great points. So coming into the season, I had this team as a fringe playoff team. I had them as a play-in team, to be quite honest with you. But then trade deadline came. And that might be the most impactful trade deadline in Los Angeles Lakers history if this team can go out and win a championship, right? But with the complete roster that they have now, there's the question that is this the most talented roster LeBron has ever been a part of? This team is 7-3, number 6 offense, number 4 defense, but it seems like they have everything. They always have somebody step up, whether if it's Lonnie Walker, Rui, Austin Reeves, or D'Lo. D'Lo had 4 points last game, and they still beat the defending champs. This team is defensively there, offensively there. They just need consistent work from Anthony Davis. And if they can get that, to me, by far and away, the number 1 team in the league. We said it here a couple weeks ago. I think when it gets to the finals, if this team makes it that far, or even in the Western Conference Finals, LeBron's going to hit that second or even third gear, and he's going to make Anthony Davis the best second option in the league yet again.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the way it's working for the Lakers, the reason they might be so dangerous right now is because they have made Anthony Davis that number 1 option. I think, obviously, the Nuggets are not number 1 team, but just, going back to the Lakers real quick, I think Anthony Davis being that number 1 option, and I think LeBron forcing him to be that number 1 option is what's making this team. What's doing it for this team? LeBron is forcing himself to take a seat back because he's like, Anthony Davis, you're gonna be the number 1 option, and I'm gonna be here if we need it. And it's worked so far.
My only question here before you go to number 1 is, let's say Anthony Davis continues this level of play, where maybe he's on one game or off another, but he's just this dominant when he has these dominant flashes. Let's say the Lakers go win a championship. Hypothetical here. Anthony Davis, we'll give the Finals MVP to LeBron. But Anthony Davis, let's say he goes win a championship and he's really their number 1 player. Is he in that conversation for top 5 in the league again? Is he in that conversation is he better than Giannis? As we thought that was going to be the argument for years.
Yeah, I think he's back in that conversation. The way he's played this playoffs, he's played like the best defender in the league. He's, I mean, if we were to do the player rankings so far, I think you can make an argument he might be better than Devin Booker. I know Devin Booker is scoring a lot, but Anthony Davis is doing it on both ends of the court. He's a top 2 or 3 players in the playoffs right now. I think he's finally doing what LeBron wanted him to do, and that's be better than LeBron right now. Obviously, we feel like there's another gear that LeBron can reach, but who knows? Maybe he's truly like, I'm 39, maybe I'm just playing my cards, maybe I'm just bluffing, like, hey,
right,
you go do this, Anthony Davis, I'll turn it up, and he doesn't turn it up, and Anthony Davis does just continue to go out and do it. But I think this does put him back in that conversation. Obviously, we'll have to see how he does over a full season with no injuries, hopefully next year. But I believe that if you have 2 rings and you're, a top 3 defender in the league for however long he's been in the league, you're a top 5 offensive talent at your position or in the league, however long he's been in the league, I think, he's back in that argument.
So not better than Giannis? Even if he wins the finals. Is he better than Giannis to you? To me, no. I'm sticking with Giannis as the number 1 player.
I think Giannis is probably the most dominant player that I've ever seen play. So I don't think Anthony Davis.
Hold on. You're not going to disrespect Carmelo Anthony.
No, yeah, I am.
I have to get my
Paul George is more dominant than Carmelo Anthony.
Maybe if he breaks his knee.
Well, Paul George is still in the league.
Okay.
So my number 1 is the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, I had Denver number 1 here before the games yesterday, but I still believe that Denver, at their best, they still look like the number 1 team to me. They still have the complete team, and that's why I have them here. They still have that complete team. They have they have MVP candidate in Jokic. They have a good secondary star in Jamal Murray, and they have great pieces in Aaron Gordon, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., and that bench that they have. Now, obviously, their fourth quarter offense has been a struggle. Mike Malone, you better figure it out, or you're going to be on that Budenholzer. So you need to figure out that fourth quarter offense, because there's no way you're going to ruin a perfectly good chance for Jokic to really improve his resume and his legacy by finally getting to a conference finals with the team that does it. Because if he can't do it with this team, he can't. I don't know if it'll happen again in his career. Then you start to question. He's a back-to-back MVP who's never even been to the conference finals at this point to his career. If you're going to have that title to your name, you need to have something to show for it. He doesn't have anything to show for it. Obviously, neither does Joel Embiid. But it means more for Jokic, I think, because what were the arguments the past 2 seasons? He doesn't have the talent. He didn't have the players that he needed to get the job done. He didn't have Jamal Murray, and he didn't have Michael Porter Jr. Last time he did, they were in the conference finals against the Lakers and lost in 5? I think.
Yeah, 5.
So if he can't get it done against this Phoenix Suns team, who was literally saying it's like that meme of Steve Nash holding Kevin Durant 2 years ago when he was on the team. Monty Williams is bear hugging Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and saying, "Just go get us this win. Just go get us another game.
Bring me to relevancy."
Exactly. Just go make me look like I know what I'm doing. Which Monty Williams does on occasion. But I think this Nuggets team, they still have what it takes to be the number 1 team, and that's what I judge my teams off of, is top to bottom talent, and also how they're playing right now. I think the Nuggets have the best top to bottom talent. Their play hasn't reflected that these past 2 games, but we know how bad their fourth quarter offense has been these last 2 games, and they still made it close games. It's not like they've been blown out yet. So I still have confidence in my Nuggets. I'm not saying my Nuggets.
Well,
I still have confidence in the Nuggets to look like the number 1 team going forward.
You know what they need? They need a Bradley Beal. They need a guy that can step up in that fourth quarter and really take them home. Unfortunately, Bradley Beal's never leaving Washington. He's interested in getting assault charges, but
honestly, they could go get Jeremy Grant again from Portland.
Jeremy Grant could be a very good option. There might be some bad blood there.
Harris type player.
But hey, in 2 years, if things don't work out after next season, Luka Doncic is on the way. Moving over to our recap here, just quickly, you guys see it on your screen now. The only difference, really, the biggest difference here between our list is the Phoenix Suns, and it's, again, a lot of these teams you can flip-flop. I could see you taking the Warriors still at 8, without, or not 8. The 8 is set in stone. As the New York Knicks are there. But like from 7 to 2 even, I can see, or really 1 through 7, I can see you going any way. Obviously if you don't have the Lakers at 7 or Celtics at 7, as long as it's not too crazy, I could see so many of these teams flip-flopped And I guess the biggest difference here is the Phoenix Sun for us.
Yeah.
But any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I mean, obviously, like you just said, this is one of those lists where it's like 7 through 1. It's like, okay, so what's happening right now? And I mean, my one, Denver could easily be 4.
Yeah, I can see the argument for Miami at 1.
Exactly, right, exactly. Miami, they have the best record so far. They could be number 1. Philly could be up. If I had to redo it, probably on the spot, I probably agree with you. Lakers are number 1, Celtics are 2, Denver 3. Then it's probably, I probably have Golden State at 7. I'd probably
move Miami up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd probably move Miami up. I'd probably move Phoenix up 1. But it's a fun list because that's the joy in it. That's the work in it. It's like, okay, so what do we think?
Right. As of right, it's all based off perspective. Again, we have games tonight. Things can change as of tomorrow. We could be saying that, the Sixers are the best team in the league after tonight, right? But that's going to do it for today's show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A 55-minute episode, longer than we have, at least as of late. But hopefully you guys still enjoy as we have another great podcast coming this Thursday. Not sure what we're going to do yet, but it's going to be some great content as it always is. But before we get out of here, share the podcast. Tell a friend if you enjoy it. They're most likely going to enjoy it too. At least tell them all we ask for is a listen. We're also on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Go ahead and check that out as well. As if you have an account, go ahead and support us. And we're also dropping exclusive content on Instagram daily. So, or weekly, I guess. I'll say that. Go ahead and support us over there. Without further ado, though, that's going to do it for today's show. We'll see you guys Thursday here. We're out.